What's good, you guys? It's your boy here, and today we'll be at it again with another review. And today we'll be reviewing Marvel Spider-Man 2. This game is a 2023 action-adventure game developed by Insomniac Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. And obviously, we're going to talk about the plot. It takes place almost 2 years after the Marvel Spider-Man. You will play as Peter Parker and Miles Morales as they come into conflict with Kraven the Hunter, a mercenary leader and big game hunter who transformed New York City into a sprawling hunting ground for its human populace. Including the Spider-Men and their adversaries, matters are complicated further when an extraterrestrial symbiote called Venom bonds itself to Peter, negatively altering his personality. The incredible powers of the symbiote forces Peter and Miles to face the ultimate test of strength, both inside and out of the mask, as they balance their lives, friendships, and their duty to protect those in need. When it comes down to the plot, I feel like the plot kind of saved the game. Reason being is because the game can get really lengthy depending on what type of player that you are. So naturally, if you just simply play through the main story, it takes about 12 to 19 hours long, while if you want a more complete playthrough, that means including all of the side content, which it is a ton of them, it is around 18 to 28 hours long. But for me personally, I just simply like to get to point A to point B when it comes down to plot and story. I don't like it a little bit lengthy like that, but I didn't really mind it too much. I took my time. And naturally, since I took my time, I enjoyed the story for what it is. So with that out of the way, let's talk about the meat of the whole game, which is the overall gameplay. Stating it before, naturally you can explore a larger part of New York than ever before, featuring 2 new boroughs, which is Brooklyn and Queens, as well as locations like Coney Island and a whole lot more. When it comes down to the gameplay builds on the foundation established by its predecessors, with an emphasis on multiple playstyles offered by Peter and Miles. Peter and Miles shares a common fighting style against majority of the enemies, being able to deal damage on the ground and in the air, yanking the enemies in any direction, and dodging incoming melee and range attacks. Peter and Miles can also parry attacks, which is a new mechanic. They can also stun enemies and setting them up for a counter attack. New moves include the wall thrust, which deal more hits against enemies backed up against a hard surface, which allows them to steal enemies' weapons and fling them back to them. The focus bar returns from the previous game, which you can use to heal from damage and perform finishers on the enemy, and the gauge, which builds up progress towards their ultimate ability. You can refill both bars by dealing damage in combat and dodging or parrying enemies' attacks majority of the time. Peter and Miles can also distract enemies by firing webbing at the objects in the area and taking them down by ambushing them at close range, zipping to them from a distance, or tying them up from a perch, wall, or ceiling. Personally, I feel that the stealth is practically the same, but it gives you a little bit more freedom to roam around in. This game also introduces unique abilities for both Peter and Miles. For example, Peter begins the game with iron arm powers, which generate a set of metallic arms in combat for pure damage output against the majority of the enemies. Later on, he'll gain access to Venom and Anti-Venom powers, which allow him to call upon tendrils in combat that are partially effective against symbiotes. Weirdly enough, they definitely have a skill tree, and there are 3 different types of skill trees that you need to work towards. Peter and Miles each have their own specific skill trees, but they also share a skill tree together. I feel like majority of the abilities and skill tree is a great addition to the game, because not only did they make the game a lot more interesting, it's a lot more fun to pull off. They also have access to the same 5 gadgets. Their gadgets have a limited number of stored charges and replenish this slowly over time. You can also replenish the gadget charges through combat, and can get free uses of gadgets through long attack combinations. You can upgrade those gadgets through in-game tokens by completing the story missions and side missions. I didn't forget, and I'm going to stop and talk about the customization in this game. There is an insane amount of suits in this game, and just like in the last 2 games, the suits that you end up wearing is the suits that you'll end up seeing in those cutscenes. I do pay attention to detail, and I really do appreciate it. It sucks because majority of the suits don't have any passive like they did in their past couple of games, but they kind of made it up by adding suit tech. So what suit tech does, it helps augment in various aspects of gameplay. So obviously you get more health, you'll deal more damage. In certain cases you increase your focus, and in some scenarios it does help with your traversal. The traversal, on the other hand, has been expanded upon since the last 2 games. You can prepare themselves by using webs by a slingshot, granting them an initial burst of speed while traveling. They can also use their symbiote or bionic electric powers to increase their height or zip forward in midair. And a new addition to the game are web wings based on jumper-like gliders built into the suits. They can use them to glide through the air, and they can increase their speed by gliding through wind channels and increasing their altitude by using updrafts from chimneys and ventilation fans.
Alright, here we go. Wait, here we go. This is about to be tight, boy. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. That was quick, yo. That's fire.
When it came down to majority of the main missions and side missions, I did enjoy majority of them, but I did like some of them more than others though. And don't get me started with the MJ missions, man.
Oh, yo. No. Oh. Oh my god. Yo, Timmy, we out, yo.
At least compared to the very first game, it's a lot more tolerable now. The reason why I said that was because you have a lot more to work with. You have a stun gun attached with a web shooter. So compared to the last one where you barely technically had anything at all, I feel like it was just a lot better than what it was. Environmentally, in a gameplay standpoint, I would say that it was alright. They didn't really change anything as far as I can remember. They kind of went with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of route, and rightfully so. They didn't really need to change anything. And when it came down to the graphics, I would say that it was out of this world. So not only is the graphics really good, the game was also optimized too. And lastly, I'm gonna talk about the soundtrack. I would say that compared to the last 2 installments, I would say that it is a lot more dramatic in a good way. Not only that, I would feel like it was really eventful at times when it came down to the soundtrack. So with that, I would say that the overall soundtrack was okay. I think that I covered mostly everything, so let's just hop on to the overview. So on the positive side of things, I like the overall plot, despite of the plot being a little bit too long. The overall gameplay I definitely enjoyed. So altogether, I love the skill tree, I love majority of their abilities and their gadgets. The customization I really enjoyed. I really liked how their traversal panned out. Despite of me liking some of them more than others, I did enjoy majority of the missions that's in this game. Environmentally, in a gameplay standpoint, they didn't really change anything, but they didn't need to change anything. The graphics was really good, and the game was really optimized, and obviously I love their soundtrack. On the negative side of things, technically it's nothing, but just for shits and giggles, I would say that I just couldn't stand the MJ missions, bro. I just can't stand them. I don't know why. On PS5 specifically, the game came out on October 20th 2023, while the PC version later released on January 30th 2025. If you get the game digitally, weirdly enough, both versions of the game are on sale. So on Steam, it's $47.99, and on PS5, it's about $29.39. But obviously, it costs more if you buy certain editions. If you buy the game in your local stores, it may be cheaper, but it all depends on where you look. So is this game worth your money? I think it is in its own right, because not only that the story is good, they also try to keep the things that we all know and love, and they also try to keep things a little bit interesting to keep us engaged despite of its flaws. So with that being said, I highly advise you guys to buy this game. This game is definitely worth your money. So that was my review. So if you haven't yet, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. I do reviews, videos, PvP matches, streams, and more. And if you haven't yet, please don't forget to follow me on my Facebook page and my Twitch account, because I probably would stream on those platforms as well. Everything should be in the description box below, and I will catch you guys in the next review.